Thank you for joining us for this North Metro TV Local Decision 2018 Primary Candidate Spotlight. I'm glad to be sitting down with Cal Bahr, who is running for Minnesota House in District 31B on the Republican primary election that's coming up in August. Cal, thanks for being here today.
Thank you.
Look forward to our conversation. So I just want to start with, I know you've had one term in office now. Why are you running for re-election?
I'm running for re-election to try and bring more liberty and less government intrusion into people's lives. This last session there was a few pieces, some attempts at reducing government interference in our everyday lives, and I want to continue that fight and that battle down in St. Paul.
What does that look like to you? What is less government intrusion and interference in people's lives look like to you?
One example would be the Renewable Development Account, which is an account that only Xcel Energy pays into this fund and it's based on a per cask fee from their nuclear power plants. So while if Conexus had a nuclear power plant, they would also pay in, but since Xcel's the only one with power plants, they're the nuclear power plants, they're the only ones that pay in. And it's a per cask fee on their used nuclear fuel. That money goes down into the Renewable Development Account and then gets used for anything that legislators want to use it for. It's supposed to be in the realm of furthering renewable fuel sources, but it gets used for many things other than that, or a very shoestring kind of thing to renewable development. One example, cutting down the ash trees in St. Paul that had the emerald ash borer infestation. So we were going to use money from that account to chip those and then put them in an incinerator and try and make electricity out of them at the St. Paul incinerator. That money is taken as a direct line item on every Xcel electric bill in the state, and that's $28 million, a little over $28 million a year that Xcel's paying in there. That's a direct savings or a direct confiscation, however you want to look at that one, from Xcel electric ratepayers. And that's just one of the many examples that I've come across that we can get the government out of the way, let that money stay in people's pockets, and then they can choose how to spend it or save it or invest that money.
So is your idea basically that Xcel would have to stop paying that money to the state, and in turn the taxpayers their customers would stop paying that money to them?
Right, because it is a direct line item on the bill. If you have an Xcel electric bill, you can look in the line items underneath where it says sales tax, county, state, all of that. Mm-hmm. There is a line item in there for Renewable Development Fund, so that if we eliminate the Renewable Development Fund, that is a line item that can come right off of your bill.
Okay. What are other issues that are important to you and important enough that made you want to run again?
One of the top issues, one of my two top issues, is the Met Council that needs to be drastically reformed, downsized, dismantled. It should just be a sewer and water organization, and everything else that the Met Council does should be back under legislative oversight. The transportation, buses and roads, the metro, that should all be part of the Department of Transportation with legislative oversight. They administer the housing, low-income housing, that should be back under legislative control. Everything except the sewer and water, which should be run by the counties. And that should be like a metro county thing, coordinated. You could call it a Met Council, but that's what they should do. They do that very well. They have won national awards for the way they run their sewer and water, for efficiency and the way they treat everything, their sewer treatment. They're winning national awards for this. They're very good at it, and that was something that they should be doing, and the rest of it should be brought back to the legislature.
So if the rest of it's brought back to the legislature, how do you, so you see it going into different state agencies, so the funding that's going to the Met Council for that, then would that be redirected to those state agencies to do that same work? Basically, is that how you're seeing,
well, it wouldn't
be,
it wouldn't be taken from the taxpayer in the first place on your property taxes. It would be moved from income or sales tax, that kind of, it would be funded out of the general fund as opposed to being funded on your property taxes, which the Met Council's, a lot of the Met Council funding is off of your property tax. And then the general fund money wouldn't go to the Met Council, it'd be shifted over to transportation or HHS, whichever agency is overseeing the parts that they pulled back in.
You have a lot of things that I know that it sounds like that are important to you, a lot of things that maybe you've worked on over the last 2 years and would like to keep working on. If you had to pick one, what is, if you get sent back to St. Paul for another 2-year term, what is one thing that, the first thing you want to accomplish, thing that you want to get done first?
I want to work on the single subject clause of the state constitution is pretty much ignored. The last day of session, we voted on a 990-page omnibus garbage bill, which is just everything all rolled into one nice big happy bundle. That does not, in my mind, that is unconstitutional, because the state constitution is very clear that every bill shall be a single subject and the subject shall be expressed in its title. And the Supreme Court has wedged that open with different rulings in the last 20 years to the point where anything can be considered single subject now. It's almost totally ignored. It's very hard to win a single subject clause lawsuit, and I would like to work on reforming that back into a true single subject law, where the legislature actually abides by that. That will do a greater service to the voting public in general, because they'll actually be able to see with these individual votes where their legislator stands, and then they can vote accordingly. They can get a more accurate depiction of what their representative is actually doing on their behalf.
You know, for years I've heard legislators say that they don't like omnibus bills. Everything comes together, it's last minute, it's sometimes thousands of pages long that no one's read and you're voting on it. Is there actual momentum to do this another way? Do you think there's actual momentum to do it another way?
Yes, on both sides of the aisle. Whichever party is in the minority really hates it, and we know that things shift back and forth, so some of us with a little longer view realize that we are not going to want to be steamrolled in the future, just like nobody else is. I have a Democrat co-sponsor we submitted the last week of session a constitutional amendment to clarify the single subject more as a placeholder, but both of us want to work on this, and we have a large amount of buy-in from both sides of the aisle on reforming that.
Okay. You know, politics isn't easy. Anyone who's in it or follows it knows that. Why did you decide to jump in, to have a voice and use your voice in this way?
I guess the short answer is I didn't like what the government was doing to me, how I was told many different ways of how I needed to live my life, what I needed to do, when I needed to do it. I come from a trucking background, transportation. The government was so onerous that they told me when they thought I was tired and when I needed to take a break, when I needed to sleep, when I needed to get up, when I needed to eat. And I'm thinking that's just one bridge too far. I realize safety issues, but that was a little bit too far. There was absolutely no flexibility. It's just, here you are, here's your parameters, now go be your robot. And people aren't robots. They are all different. They all have different needs. They all have different desires. And that is why I got into politics, is to try and lessen the burden of government on the everyday citizen.
Okay. As you've gone throughout this process, this campaign, the last campaign, what have you heard from your community? What do you believe is important to the people of 31B?
Some of the things that I have heard are, stop taxing my Social Security, get rid of the Met Council. They just, every time I hear from somebody, it's, we need just to get rid of it. They don't want to hear the word reform. They don't want to hear tinkering around the edges. They want it gone. They want their Social Security free and clear. They don't want that state income tax on that, which we're one of 6 states now, is all that's left that taxes Social Security income on income tax. So that's something that's important to the citizens of 31B. Just being free to, be left alone. It kind of boils down to that, but it will be a specific thing, but it all comes back to, I want to be left alone. And I'm going to steal this from one of my constituents 2 years ago when I was out door knocking. He said he wanted 3 things from government. He wanted his cops, he wanted his roads, and he wanted to be left alone. That's all he wanted from government. And that, in different areas, is what I hear over and over and over. We just want to be free to live our lives.
And how do you believe that you as a state legislator can bring that to them if you think that's what they are asking for.
For starters, I can vote against all those omnibus bills. I can be a voice to say, hey, let's have some single subject. I can be an author on bills that eliminate things like the RDA. I can be an author on bills that will eliminate onerous regulations or dial some back that are just either eliminate or bring back into perspective. There's numerous ways that I can advocate for smaller government.
Mm-hmm. Do you feel that you hear that from some constituents, and some might say that's really far one way to think? I just want these three things for my government. Others of your constituents probably need more things. Whether it be veterans benefits, whether it be some sort of healthcare assistance, want transportation, and transit, not just not just their roads. How do you feel like you're able to take the person who just wants those three things and someone who might want more and be able to serve all of them?
There are some new technologies that are coming that, like the transit issues. Somebody who wants more transit, access to more transit, instead of trains, the buses is fine. I don't have a problem with expanding bus routes, especially the rapid transit ones, as opposed to putting in an LRT. We can move the bus line. You can't really move the LRT without billions of dollars being spent. It's very fixed. There was a reason we got rid of that in the early 60s, late 50s, and went to buses. But there's a new technology coming, and whether you believe it or not, it will be here in probably 3 or 4 years, maybe 5, autonomous vehicles. And there are companies that will think Uber, autonomous vehicle, and minibus. You can take all of those pieces, put them together, and somebody who's in a wheelchair, somebody who's blind, can call up their Uber app, which is an autonomous vehicle. It will come to their house. They can get into the vehicle. The vehicle will take them anywhere they need to go. They can go to their doctor's appointments. And it's not a human pushing them out of the back of the bus by accident. It's not a car that you need to keep and maintain. In fact, the reports that I've read, they believe that they can bring autonomous vehicles, autonomous taxis for the normal person, to market for approximately half of what you spend on a car to keep in your garage on a day-to-day basis, but yet it's still available for you to use anytime you want. And it goes back, it's an electric. Most of these are on electric basis. So it goes back, it recharges when it knows it needs to be recharged, and the next vehicle's out, it's dispatched to your neighbor's place. It drops you off from work and goes 2 miles down to the road and picks somebody up to go get groceries. It drops the grocery person off, goes around the corner, picks somebody else, and goes somewhere else. It's constantly moving with a passenger in it. So that there are these technologies that, like all of these pieces, are coming together to revolutionize the way we move, kind of like when we went from a horse and buggy to the Model T. We're going to see an evolution not only in transportation, but I believe in the next 10 years we will see an evolution in electricity. The way we generate electricity, and it won't be something, it'll be a new technology coming to market that's going to be much more efficient, and the government just needs to let that happen. Let the market work and bring things to market, as opposed to we need to regulate it out of existence.
Okay. I know we could keep talking about a lot of these things. We only have a couple minutes left. I just want to finish up with a couple of questions. First one is just simply, why should someone vote for you in the primary on August 14th?
I would like people to vote for me because I am a candidate that believes you know how to live your life better than me directing your life. You will make better decisions affecting your life than I will. I want you to have that freedom to succeed. I want you to have the freedom to decide how you live your life. And that's why I would appreciate people voting for me.
And then finally, how can people get in touch with you throughout this campaign if they would like to ask you a question or whatever it might be, have a conversation with you? How can people get in touch with you?
The 3 best ways to get a hold of me are either on Facebook at Bahr, CALBAHR, and you can leave a message there. You can go to my website, bahrforhouse.com, and there's a contact page on there, or you can call my cell phone, 612-306-1483, and any one of those 3 modes will reach me.
Well, Cal, thank you for taking some time, sharing some of your views with us, and best of luck to you throughout the campaign.
Thank you.
All right. I want to remind you that you can always watch more here on North Metro TV. We have candidate spotlights for a few different races that have primary elections, and then obviously in the general election this fall we'll be having candidate debates for many races across the North Metro. All of that's available on northmetrotv.com. You can watch this program or any other program there, or also via our YouTube channel. Just search North Metro TV on YouTube. I've been your host, Ben Hale. Thank you for watching.